Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Pat Living with the Department of Health and Social Services. This afternoon, we will have Yukon Premier Sandy Silver speak first, followed by Dr. Brendan Hanley. We will then go to questions from the media. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat. Appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. First, I want to take a moment to thank all of those who have been working tirelessly over the last few weeks to keep Yukoners safe. To those in the healthcare field, you are working nonstop in the coordination of testing, assessment, treating, contract tracing, sanitization, and so very, very much more. And I just want to say on behalf of all Yukoners, thank you very much. You are doing your best to keep us safe, and we will continue to do our best to keep you safe as well. Thanks also goes to those who are still at work every day at places like grocery stores and pharmacies, and others who are driving buses or delivering fuel. We all owe you a debt of gratitude for your efforts in keeping Yukon running. And thank you finally to the public servants who are working very hard to develop the programs and policies that you have seen announced over the past days and weeks. I know that they will continue to work their hardest to meet the demands that will come over the next few weeks and months as well. It has been a long week, one of many, that's for sure. As you all know, things continuously change and they're continuously evolving as we learn more about COVID-19. This past week has been absolutely no exception. Our government is taking a three-pronged approach to this situation. First and foremost, our concern is for the safety and well-being of Yukoners, and in that statement is reducing the curve. Secondly, we are focused on taking all precautions necessary to ensure that our health system is not overloaded with cases of COVID-19. And thirdly, we are supporting our economy because our local businesses support the communities. They keep Yukoners working and able to create opportunities for the people of the territory. So as long as we can keep those first two points done as essential, then we must be able to as well look towards our economy. Our government has recently made several announcements about supports for Yukoners to help them cope with the consequences of COVID-19. 1 week ago, last Friday, we did declare a state of emergency under the Civil Measures Emergency Act. Invoking this act made it possible for the government to react more quickly during this unprecedented time. It gives us the means to prepare for what may come in the days and weeks ahead and does not change the level of risk of COVID-19 in Yukon. And yesterday you heard about the orders that have come from this declaration as well. Yukon now has the enforcement powers to respond if people choose not to comply with the instructions of the Chief Medical Officer of Health. With respect to the appointment of enforcement officers, Yukon government will be appointing personnel who have enforcement powers under the Government of Yukon legislation. These orders that we're going to be enforcing are self-isolation for 14 days if you are returning to Yukon from outside the territory, passing through quickly if you need to get through the Yukon to return home to Alaska, BC, or the Northwest Territories, and also not congregating in groups of more than 10 people. As our Minister of Justice said very clearly, these are not suggestions, these are the law. If you do not comply, you will be subject to fines and possible jail time. To people considering traveling to Yukon, now is not the time to visit our amazing and beautiful territory. We value our tourism industry, but right now we need to protect Yukoners and reduce the spread of this virus. You are very welcome to come back after this pandemic is over. We would be very happy to see you then. Yukoners, this message is to you. We must continue to take this extremely seriously. You must operate with an abundance of caution. As one doctor put it, don't act like you don't want to get the virus, act like you have the virus and you don't want to spread it. We are also working with First Nations and municipal governments on how these orders are enforced and what they will look like right across the Yukon. Now, I appreciate the conversations that I've had with partner governments so far. I've heard from concerned chiefs and mayors, and I want to thank them all for their work to keep Yukon safe. We have great leadership in the Yukon. We also recommend that businesses who plan to work in communities reach out to local governments prior to that to arriving in a community. This goes a long way in relieving people's worry. We also realize that with these firm measures come impacts to our economy. Our government has so far announced $11.7 million in support to Yukon economy, and more is on the way. I know Minister Pillay spoke about the temporary support for events funding program will help businesses and NGOs to recover costs, certain costs that are from the cancellation of major events due to COVID-19. This coverage this covers events like the Arctic Winter Games and the Yukon Native Hockey Tournament as well. This program is part of our suite of programs and policies already announced, including the paid sick leave program, regulations which prevent COVID-19 related evictions for the next 90 days, and ensuring home security for Yukoners. You can also find details about our previously announced supports programs on yukon.ca. I'd like to thank the federal government as well for its slate of programs that it has announced aiming at helping workers and the economy. It is important that Yukoners know what federal programs are available and how to access them. Starting on Monday, eligible Yukoners who are unable to work for reasons related to COVID-19 will be able to apply to the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit through the Canadian Revenue Agency's online portal or over the phone. And this will provide $500 per week up to 16 weeks. The federal government has also announced a wage subsidy that will cover 75% of salaries for businesses who've experienced large declines in revenue. This program is intended to help businesses retain their employees or to rehire employees that have already been laid off, keeping people on the payroll and ready for recovery when this phase of the pandemic response is behind us. Federal response plan also provides more access to credit for businesses, both large and small, and defers tax payments to give some much needed breathing room. This week, we also released guidelines that define critical and essential services. Now, these guidelines will provide Yukoners and critical service providers the clarity needed to determine who can safely travel and work throughout the territory. I continue to have extremely productive meetings with fellow premiers and the Prime Minister, and I'm very, very proud of how well our country's leaders have come together to work together against COVID-19, sharing in responsibility, supplies. I'm very proud of the Canadian leadership. We are hearing reports that nationally and internationally efforts like the ones in place in Yukon are helping combat the spread of the virus. Other regions who are practicing strong physical distancing, self-isolation as ordered, and reducing unnecessary contacts are seeing reduction in spread. So Yukoners, I want to be crystal clear in saying this: stay home as much as possible. We are all realizing now how much of a challenge that really is. But I need every single Yukoner to take this incredibly seriously. Think for a moment about how truly small the Yukon is. We all have connections to each other in one way or another. You may not personally have an older relative that lives here, but I bet your neighbors and your friends do. Staying home will literally save lives for our elders and all Yukoners. We are seeing across the world that COVID-19 impacts younger generations as well. Although it seems like another lifetime ago, it was less than a month ago that the Arctic Winter Games were canceled. A lot has happened since that day, and a lot of effort has gone into keeping all Yukoners as safe as possible. We are all in this together, and we all need to do our part. Do not put others at risk due to ignorance or boredom. There is no excuse for choosing not to practice social distancing. If you are struggling, there is help. I'm so grateful to live in such a tight-knit community where so many people have stepped up to help others get through tough times. With that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful, safe weekend. Take time to connect, of course, at a safe distance with your community, and above all, continue to be kind to one another. Before I pass things off to Dr. Hanley, I do appreciate all of the businesses and individuals who have contacted directly, the ministers, myself. As a community, I'm extremely proud of the measures that those are taking, the individual leaders that have stepped up in their communities to provide help to our elders. It's extremely important right now, and I couldn't be prouder to be a Yukoner. I want to thank Dr. Hanley as well as his leadership. Through this time, he is a voice of reason, he is a voice of science, and a voice that Yukoners trust and depend in this very uncertain time. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Premier. And appreciate your last words, and I echo all of the rest that you said, including thanks to all of the individuals and communities and families that are doing their part. I hope everyone's doing well as we approach the end of the working week, and as the weather warms and the daylight continues to enlarge. I urge everyone who can to go outside and get some fresh air and exercise. And yes, that's also for those of you who are in self-isolation, as long as you strictly adhere to the rules. First, if you are COVID positive or a contact of a case and required to self-isolate, then you're not one of those people. You do need to stay at home and strictly self-isolate. Second, if you have any symptoms, don't go anywhere. But if you're well and in that category of having traveled into Yukon and are self-isolating under new orders, you can go outside as long as you have a safe way to get to the outside so that you don't infringe upon anyone else's 2-meter bubble. Use common sense and get advice if you're unsure. Going outside does not mean a long snowmobile ride at the pass, where you're at risk for breaching self-isolation rules, either by encountering others or because of a breakdown. Going for a ski at the ski club is not self-isolation. Walking on the back trails where you can safely keep away from others and observe safe spacing is. I'll not be able to adjudicate every scenario, but the best question to ask is there any risk that I might not be able to comply with safe spacing? If someone is in self-isolation and is seen on the trails, then do your best to keep your distance and respect that person's privacy. Let's observe the rules while maintaining respect and kindness for each other. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the laws that are now in place to help us stop the spread of COVID-19. The orders I've been putting into place over the last few weeks are now laws, as the Premier has just outlined. And this was the next step of putting into place the details of operations that we promised, as we continue, meanwhile, to assess the situation, specifically in Yukon. It's of course vital that we continue to commit to protect rural communities, and this is part of the efforts to reinforce the intent of the orders that I placed. And these laws all provide clarity for anyone who wasn't sure what was an order and what was a recommendation and what was advice. Having laws helps clarify the rules for what Yukoners can and cannot legally do. And we also now have guidance for workers who are offering critical or essential services to Yukon, including those who may have to travel across our borders to deliver those services. I'm just going to summarize a little bit of that in French. Je voudrais maintenant parler des mesures légales qui sont maintenant en place pour nous aider à enrayer la propagation de la COVID-19. Les ordonnances que j'ai mises en place au cours des dernières semaines ont maintenant force de loi. Cette étape s'inscrit dans la suite logique de notre évaluation constante de la situation au Yukon. Nous devons impérativement protéger les collectivités rurales parce qu'elles sont particulièrement vulnérables. Faire de ces ordonnances des dispositions légales nous aidera à y parvenir. Cette démarche nous permet également de clarifier la distinction entre les mesures qui sont des ordonnances et celles qui sont des recommandations. We've all got our part to play in protecting each other and to keep our society running at the same time, again, as the Premier so clearly outlined. And having these laws will help us define our roles in the ongoing battle. On another note, I've heard with some concern about how quiet the emergency departments are, not only here, but in other parts of the country where COVID cases are not widely circulating. I've seen descriptions of an eerie calm where emergency nurses and physicians are wondering who is not coming in. I want to reassure people who would otherwise be visiting the emergency departments or with urgent or serious complaints that these are still places to come. In fact, they're probably one of the safest places you can be from a COVID point of view, as people are screened for possible infection and infection control is so well instituted. If you do have a complaint or concern, call 811 or 911 as circumstances require. If the advice is to go to the emerge, then please take that advice very seriously. Oh yes, and for the case news update, we remain at 6 confirmed cases. We now have 4 recovered cases. So again, we have no new cases to report, and we have 1 new recovered case to report. So I think that puts us in good shape for taking a breather again this weekend. With that, I'll be able to answer questions.
We have one reporter in the room, Tim from CKRW. Do you have a question?
Hi, Dr. Hanley. Any update just on testing results? I know we sometimes always keep asking the same questions, but as you know, everything's changing by the moment. How are things looking for BC and for testing and even the testing process here? Just a bit of an update, on that. Obviously, we're up to, hundreds of tests.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So if you look at the pending tests right now on what we publish, and it's a reflection of a shorter turnaround time. So we're definitely over that backlog now. And the pending tests are reflecting the last 2 or 3 days of tests. So we now have a much more consistent turnaround. Now, again, there are many factors to consider there. There may be there may be some travel constraints, but in general, again, to reiterate that all Yukon tests are priority at the BC CDC lab where the tests are sent to, and once they get to the lab, enjoy in general a very rapid turnaround. So our kind of going rate is between 2 to 3 days, and sometimes a day or 2 longer.
Okay, we'll go to the phone lines now. We'll start with Gord from the Yukon News.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve from CBC.
This question is for the Premier. In regards to the meeting with the Prime Minister and other premiers yesterday, what are the substantial things that came out of it, specifically to Yukon? Like, did you make any specific requests? And then also, in regards to how is the government currently planning or planning to fund them, if at all differently? Have there been any changes or planned changes to childcare funding amid all this?
Thanks, Steve, for the question. I'll leave the question on daycares for another day. We're working on that currently, and there'll be more to come on that. With the federal call, what we do is we do a check-in. We check in right across the country as to cases and where every other jurisdiction is. Premier Horgan was cautiously optimistic. He's seeing a reduction in cases. It's increasing at a decreasing rate, which is really good news. But at the same time, as the seasons get nicer in BC, it also is cause for concern, and hopefully that people are going to still adhere to the social distancing parameters in his province. What we're also seeing right across the nation, and it really makes me proud to be a Canadian, is regions that are foregoing some of their supplies for other regions that need them critically today. Quebec is in such an interesting situation, and Premier Kenney in Alberta is giving off masks and supplies right now, knowing full well that in a couple of months or a month he will need that supply for his people of Alberta, and it's so great to see that the nation is working together. Politics are being put aside, and we're focusing in on where the need is most essential. When it comes to Yukon as well, we keep on telling the nation that when it comes to any of these parameters or any of the processes through procurement of medical supplies, PPEs, name it, per capita models do not work in the Yukon. We want to make sure that we have base plus funding so that Yukon's unique circumstances of distance and distances between the communities, and also the fact that we do have very remote communities, small communities, that's taken into consideration when we're being allotted our sections of critical supplies and supply chain management.
If we can move on to Claudiane, Radio-Canada.
I'm good.
Okay. Marin, Aurore Boréale.
Et Marin, Cam Hick ici, je peux donner votre question si vous préférez.
Oui, merci.
Okay, bienvenue. Alors, I'm going to say it in French first, and then I'll repeat it in English. And my French is not the best, but I shall do. De nombreux d'étudiants prévoyant d'avoir des emplois d'été au Yukon. La Colombie-Britannique a annoncé des fonds pour aider ces étudiants. Ces étudiants ne sont pas éligibles pour les fonds d'urgence. Est-ce que le Yukon prévoit une aide pour ces jeunes qui paieront pour certains leur unique revenu de l'année? And in English, many students plan to have summer jobs in the Yukon. British Columbia has announced funding to help these students. These students are not eligible for emergency funds. Does the Yukon provide assistance for these young people, some of whom will lose their only income for the year?
Much appreciate the question. Je suis désolé, je ne parle pas français. I'll have to answer in English. So we have the Yukon Grant already, which is an amazing program that is offered for our students. We are working on our next phases of relief for folks. We do identify the unique circumstances that Yukoners are in right now, Yukoners that want to return home to start up the jobs that they do normally in the summer. And, we know that there's a good chance that those will be curtailed. So we just announced a suite of options right now for the business community. We have the Council that is working with small businesses, but we also have the Minister of Education working on for education coming up in the upcoming weeks and months. It is definitely something that is on our mind, and we're keeping an eye on that situation, and more to come at that time. But suffice to say, the school year is a topic right now, what we can salvage therein, but also what we can do for our return students, or the students that would normally return to jobs and opportunities in the Yukon that they need to continue their studies. It's extremely important conversation that's going.
Next to Gabrielle at the White Bar.
Hi, I have a question for both the Premier and Dr. Hanley, but I'll start with a question for the Premier, which is I'm hoping you can elaborate on who we appointed to have these enforcement powers and what that training is going to look like.
Great question. I really appreciate that. Again, as we were, we did the state of emergency. We're getting this information out the door as quickly as possible because of the need and the circumstances we're in. So, state of emergency announced, and folks get prepared for what that means. And then within a week, we have now the provisions for the fines and and we want to announce that right away so that people know that that's serious and that those provisions are there. And really based upon conversations that Minister Stryker has been having with municipalities, myself with First Chiefs as well, and councillors. It's extremely important that everybody, every government is working based upon the recommendations of Dr. Hanley and his team, and making sure that we're all working in tandem on that. So the next step is to reach out to those governments. I talked with Mayor Kerr today, for example, about exactly this. And, I know Minister Stryker has been talking to the mayors, and I've been talking with the chiefs. What do we do next as far as working government to make sure that we all are together on the same page? One of the concerns in the communities was, we know that there's instructions at the weigh-in stations for some of the truckers that are coming through, but when they get to our communities, we're not sure about those conversations. We don't know what you said to these folks. So that's really good information from the chiefs and the mayors, and we really appreciate that. So the next steps for us is, we do have the ability to have people within our government to enforce these fines. We don't want to rely on the RCMP to do that. The RCMP is extremely busy right now with the work that they're doing. We definitely want their presence as well. But we do have bylaw officers in the municipality. We have lands officers and First Nations governments as well. No obligation therein, but we will be reaching out to our partner governments and asking what kind of supports we can lend. We've been every day working on our communications to better communicate with chiefs and councillors and mayors and councillors as this ever-evolving situation continues. And now this week coming up and this weekend is how do we reach out to the chiefs and councils and the mayor and councils to see what kind of supports are being lent. I don't like to section out any particular person or individual, but I I've had so many great conversations with the chiefs, and I'm just so proud to be able to work with such leaders. A great conversation with Chief Russell back, for example, in Little Salmon, Carmacks, where you have somebody who's, as a government leader, is utilizing his public servants to get out there on the land and to talk to people that are in the community that are coming back into Carmacks from away, and welcoming them back into his traditional territory, and making sure that people there know what the rules and regulations are and that they're adhering to it. It's so great to see the levels of cooperation amongst the First Nations right now. Same with Chief Kane and Chief Bill in Whitehorse, as well as the chiefs in the other communities rurally. Everybody wants to do more, and I couldn't be prouder of that and more thankful of that. And so we will be working together to see what kind of supports other governments can lend as we now have people, making sure that whether you're coming in from air or from land, that you're adhering to these new requirements.
Gabrielle, your next question.
Thank you. For Dr. Hanley, I was wondering, I see that have 53 tests pending results. It seems that we're waiting for less tests back than we were a couple weeks ago. Is that just because things have sped up, or is it also because less people are requesting testing than they were at the very beginning?
The question is about testing and estimating what's going on from the numbers of pending tests. So there was a backlog, and so there were a number of pending, and I think it was over 200 at one point of tests because of that backlog of results. So now what we're seeing is a reflection more of everyday patterns, and there is substantial variability from day to day, I would say, and that depends on the number of attendants, the number of attendees at the RAC, the Respiratory Assessment Clinic in town, as well as it might reflect the degree of contact tracing that's going on related to cases. Also the number of people who have travel associated with symptoms, and that will fluctuate. And of course, we have probably now we had a bit of an influx of travelers, people coming in. We probably have less travel influx. So all of those factors will be contributing to the variation that we'll see in a fluctuation in rates from day to day. But in general, I think the lower number of pending was clearing of the backlog.
Thank you. Can we go to Mario of
Okay,
Radio
thank you.
Canada? Mario? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to Julian from the Norway.
Yvette.
Oh, sorry.